about the productive sectors. And I will say to you, the productive sectors in Tobago are basically three sectors: hotels and guest houses, yes, agriculture, wholesale and retail stuff. Now, when you look at that period 2011 to 2016, you would observe the productive sector reflecting a similar decline in business. Let's take, for example, hotels and guest houses throughout that period, 2011 to 2016, declined by 5.4%. Yeah. The next area to decline was wholesale and retail. That declined by 5%. The other area was agriculture. Agriculture declined by 4.3%. Now, when you look at all of that and you put an average to it, it more or less looks like the decline we experienced of 4.5% on an annual basis leading to 2016. Instead, they came in here and they pedalized with a soft voice and an innocent face, as if they were taught by their former boss himself. They said the economy in Tobago is growing 3% on an annual basis. So much persons losing their work, so much business closing down, and the economy growing? No, it is not. Let me go further to say, I am shocked that my friend, member for Bacolod, Mount St. George, Secretary of Finance, did not take time out to speak about Tobago creating a second line of revenue that is different from the handout from Trinidad. Because with a budget of $4.9 billion, almost $5 billion, in an economy that is well constricted, where are we going with that? There's not even place to pass in this economy. But he's putting a budget of $5 billion. When I look at the revenue streams, he gave us a book on that. Draft estimate for revenue. How do you intend to get that $5 million? I'm looking for it. Your revenue streams. I'm looking at it here. And I'm saying at best, his revenue streams, when put together at best, amount to some $225 million at best. Where are we going with that? Where are we going with that? Where are we going with that? Is that how we're going to supplement this budget here? A budget is about expenditure. It brings me to a second point. A budget of $2.5 billion, all right, requires a certain type of revenue to be generated. If you're going to make a budget of $2.5 million, you need to have a certain level of revenue. The likes we have not seen. We need to have a type of revenue like $8.6 billion. We need to generate that if we're going to have a budget of 2.5. But no, that's not interesting to you. That's not important to you. All you know, you could make a phone call to Trinidad and you could get something down there. And I watched at my friend on Channel 5 this morning trying to answer the question. And he said that there are other sources of revenues that they're going to get to. Then where is it? It's not here. Transfers? Not here. For 16 years, they wrote budget after budget after budget. For 16 years altogether, they had approximately $40 billion. And they never one day thought about sustainable economic development. They never thought about something that will continue long after the fire is out. They never thought about that. A very simple thing is planting trees.
When we would have attempted to seek the mandate of the people of Tobago and thereby establish a form of social contract, we would have said to the people of Tobago that our vision, particularly in the short to medium term, was the development of an economy that was sustainable, but more fundamentally one that was premised on agriculture, tourism, light manufacturing, and specialized services. And indeed, we went further, and we made the point that that economy would be undergirded by a robust education system, a dynamic health sector, an energized public service, and an industrious but hospitable people. And therefore, we are satisfied and we are confident that the budget that we would have presented on this side clearly delineates and outlines a path forward for the journey on which we have embarked. Having said that, Madam Presiding Officer, as part of my initial context for my presentation, I would be particularly negligent if I didn't at least spend a few minutes. I do not have 2 hours, but at least spend a few moments to treat with some of the attempts by the minority leader to debunk the budget presentation. And, Madam Presiding Officer, of course, my colleagues at the appropriate time will respond to certain specific areas, especially those areas consistent with their portfolios. And whilst it might have been too much to expect a magnanimous contribution, given that we are talking about Tobago's development, I really did not expect a reply devoid of pragmatism, practicality, and rationality. And to think, Madam Presiding Officer, that the minority leader would describe the budget as sickening and painful. What needs to be said very positively and very forcefully is that what is sickening and painful is the fact that we had to spend the last 2 hours listening to a presentation that was frivolous, vexatious, vacuous, ridiculous, preposterous. It is clear, Madam Presiding Officer, that the minority leader, notwithstanding his shenanigans, listens to me from time to time. And it does cause him some confusion, because there were times in his presentation that I was wondering whether he was supporting the budget or he was contradicting the budget. Such was his presentation, actually a mishmash of logic, replete with misrepresentations, convoluted arguments, and contradictions. In one instance, he's saying that we have no plan. And in another instance, he's saying that we need to consult. Now tell me, you want to consult or you want a plan? But I say to the people of Tobago, through you, Madam Presiding Officer, that let us beware. The core personality of an individual does not change. And that the road to hell is paved with good intention. And I take this opportunity to caution the minority leader, because he likes to give advice to us on this side. I know he goes to church from time to time, and that is commendable. But I need to remind him that those who know it and do it not shall be beaten with many stripes. So, in essence, I advise the minority leader to refrain from speaking from both sides of his mouth. But I was making the point a while ago about the minority leader listening to me. And it is evident, because in some of his contribution, he did allude to some of our plans, you know, and attempting to put that and to flip that as though they were representative of his own ideas. Madam Presiding Officer, it bears repeating that Tobago has made tremendous strides in the last 16 years. It does bear repeating. And in fact, Madam Presiding Officer, we really would have just made the point that a platform has been created for those of us who have now been handed the baton to take it and run with it. The statistics are there. Employment or unemployment was 13% in 2001, and that in respect of the last quarter of 2016 is less than 4%. Those are undeniable facts. Quantitatively, and the minority leader did make reference to it, there were 21,700 persons employed in 2001, and that moved to 32,000 plus by the third quarter of 2016. We have, in respect of an educated labor force, again, it bears repeating because the point must be made, that it was 5% of the labor force in 2001, and that has gone to 20% in 2016, representing a 400% increase. And Madam Presiding Officer, if I were in a more combative mood, I would have said it probably may need to stick in their craw, but I wouldn't say that because as an individual who is committed to law and order, I shall set the example. We have, Madam Presiding Officer, the highest number of community centers per capita anywhere in the world. The highest number of sporting fields and lighted fields, etc., per capita anywhere in the world. The highest number of health centers per capita anywhere in the world. We have 17 health centers thereabout, and a general hospital seating about 100 beds for 65,000 people. I ask the question, where else in the world is that available? And therefore, when we say that much has been done over the last 16 years, when we say that we are comfortable with a platform that has been created, it is to these that we speak. However, Madam Presiding Officer, real challenges exist, and there are issues that we must face. We all know them. The minority leader knows them, and I say to us that we ignore them at our peril. The issue of productivity is one that I was addressing on the platform during the elections, and I can't remember any other potential leader opposite to us making any attempt to address that as one of the critical issues that we must address going forward. The absence of a real manufacturing sector, we have said that, I have spoken to it. The minority leader referred to the opening of the Argyle multi-purpose micro center, and indeed, on that occasion, I made reference to the fact that in Tobago, we have gotten to the point where we import, and he spoke to it, he took it from a speech I made, that Benet balls seem to have been replaced by sesame seed balls. And more fundamentally, that Sesame Street balls are made in Trinidad and are sent to Tobago to be sold as Tobago Benet balls. That is not new. That is not new information. I have addressed that. And I'm saying these are the things that we must pay attention to. We import tamarind balls or tamarind balls. I think it's from Taiwan. How did we get there? These are some of the things that we must confront and treat with if we are to take Tobago to the next level. And that is why on this side, and as part of our philosophy for development, we talked about a particular kind of community development model. Tobago can do, because we believe in the spirit of our people. And we also spoke about metanoia, which represents in a very real sense the need for us to change our mental models, the need for us to have a critical look at the lens through which we see the world and adjust them accordingly. As I said on more than one occasion in the past, we have to get to the point where we change our approach to treating the things. And we need to do that fast.
And I'm taking time to talk about the process, because we've been spending the money, we've been doing it, and we have not been following through with the correct process, which would explain why after $40 billion we still don't know what we have for all of that money spent. So the first of those is what is known as process evaluation. And that, Madam Presiding Officer, is very simple. Are we doing what we said we were going to do? You said you were going to have 10 workshops. Did you actually have 10 workshops? It's as simple as that. The second one has to do with impact evaluation, and this is where we seem to have a problem, not just in Tobago, in Trinidad and Tobago. When you look at the reports for the PSIP and the SSIPs, they tell you that one of the problems is that we do not know what we are getting after we spend all of this money. I know that for a fact, Madam Presiding Officer, I was actually in the Division of Health and Social Services, and I was the one responsible for pulling together a lot of the reports to send down for SSIP and PSIP, so I know what I am talking about. Impact evaluation. That is where you immediately see if the money you spent did anything. So we're going back to business. We're talking about developing businesses and so forth. You have just given somebody money, or you've done a trading so that business people can improve their accounts. There needs to be a way, a very set way, a very specific way of determining if at the end of the workshop, at the end of spending the $1 billion, at the end of spending the $4 million, that those people have actually learned what you said you were going to teach them. That needs to be outlined now, because it's important for how the rest of the year rolls out. And then there's the outcome. Those businesses, in 5-10 years, are they still thriving? When we read about the GDP of Tobago in 5-10 years from now, how many of those businesses would be part of that process? And it's important, even though we're talking about 5-10 years from now, you have to build into the system now how we are going to collect that kind of data. And the fourth kind of evaluation, Madam Presiding Officer, is one that is very near and dear to my heart. It's really looking at accounting for the money that is spent. We've done it for the last 16 years. You hear the Auditor General's report every year. We cannot actually do a report on Tobago because we don't know, we're not getting the information. We're not getting the information. So there needs to be specifically audited accounts for particularly those companies. You see those things that we call the special purpose companies? I don't know, we seem to be using those as a way to get around having to follow the procurement process. I don't know. But we have all of these quote-unquote special purpose companies that we keep giving money to every single year. However, when I looked at the revenue book, I specifically went looking for different special purpose companies to see how much money they are actually making, how much money they are actually giving back to us. You know, that is important because, for example, the Esplanade, the Milford Road Esplanade Company, whatever that is called, we are giving them, or we are proposing to give them $15 million. How much money did they make last year, did the year before? We are going to give, as proposed, The fish processing company of Tobago, that's the one with the boat that nobody seems to be able to find, $6.6 million. We are going to give, according to the books, the Tobago Cassava Products Limited, $1 million. The one that seems to not be able to produce any kind of cassava products, but we're giving them $1 million. We are giving the Tobago Cold Storage and Warehouse Facility $3.8 million. The Cove Eco-Industrial and Business Park, $85.4 million. Now, these companies, they say, are the ones that should be making money for us, but we don't know. We simply do not know because there are no audited accounts. And if they are, please stand on a point of order and let me know, and please hand over a copy of the audited accounts for these companies. We also have the Venture Capital Fund Limited, the Tobago Information Technology Limited, the Pigeon Point Heritage Park that we know keeps hosting all of these big events and so forth. Please, for the sake of all of us, let us know.
Good service delivery, Madam Presiding Officer, is a vital element of any health system. And so as we seek to treat with service provision, financing, stewardship, and resource allocation, let me just engage you for just a little bit. We need to consider the social determinants, the political determinants, and those determinants are important, even the economic ones, for a population of over 60,000. The network of healthcare delivery systems and the facilities through which we provide care are second to none. And you can look at what is happening in secondary care at Scarborough General Hospital. So we have one general hospital, 17 primary care centers, and 3 outreach centers. We provide, within the last 16 years and before, a comprehensive range of health services. Services are accessible to all persons in our population. We have good coverage, and so whether you're sick or you're healthy, you can present for care. Our services are client-centered, and so, notwithstanding some challenges from time to time, we can still boast of good services being provided at some time. So both primary and secondary level, there has been improvement over the past 16 years. We continue to collaborate such that we can improve. With respect to accountability and efficiency, about which there was a bit of discourse, let me just say for any sector, that is a concern. And so, matters with respect to accountability and stewardship will continue to engage us as we seek to improve those areas. So to efficiency. What is important, though, we give the assurance that we will continue in the interest of the Tobago population to improve any area in which it is deficient. Let's just look at the facilities just closer. The number of hospital beds in our country is an important factor in determining the health resources available to our population. I look at Japan and South Korea. They have the highest numbers of hospital beds per 1,000, an average of 9.56. OECD countries like Chile and Mexico, 2 and 1.68 respectively. USA, UK, and Canada, 3.26, 2.95, and 2.71 per 1,000 respectively. In the Caribbean average, 2.89, notwithstanding Barbados has 7.56. And so in Tobago, we have 5 per 1,000. Permit me to repeat, 5 per 1,000. We are above the Caribbean average. And that is something that is positive for us. Just looking in terms of the threshold requirements for the health sector, and for all the people who pose as planners and who have not been trained to the level they should be trained, please note the type of facility by population, by service radius. General hospitals, for a population of 150,000, 4 beds per 10,000 for a service radius of 80 kilometers. For a health center, for a population of 20,000, 4.10 beds per 10,000 for 24 kilometers radius. And so we could speak about successes within the past 16 years. And so permit me, Madam Presiding Officer, to speak to the health agenda in the context of the national agenda. We have reviewed the existing situation. We've done that. We've looked at our programs and services. We've conducted situation analyses. And we are leveraging a few areas. We are not attempting to do all of it at one time. So we will be focusing on research. We'll be focusing on decentralizing some services, one of which would be a family development. We are going to be enhancing our health services delivery. We are going to strengthen our leadership and governance, and we focus on improving public health response. Those are areas that we will be treating with. We did say earlier that we are attempting to leverage some areas this year. Now, with respect to research, and I heard, and oftentimes I come to this house, we listen to all talk. We want to listen to data. It allows us to make more sense of what is happening. I heard about evidence-based decision-making. This division will focus on evidence-based decision-making because, Madam Presiding Officer, data is important as we make decisions. And so the data that we have gleaned from the process we have engaged in will support the plans and which plan the budget provides the support for. In that respect, Madam Presiding Officer, we've expanded our policy research and planning unit because we want to determine the social and health needs of the Tobago population. We have established an NCD registry, a non-communicable disease registry. What that will do, that will provide a repository for health-related data. That's in the budget. We want to be able to monitor what is happening in terms of diseases on this island. We've established a research ethics committee. Such committee will ensure that all ongoing research is monitored and all ongoing research meets ethical acceptability. We've engaged with other universities as we conduct research into cancer. And let me just say that this is a concern for us because just looking at the data, we recognize, whereas we weren't paying attention to colon cancer, colon is an area that we must address now. Whereas we were focusing on prostate, and then we thought we would look at the breast, we are now seeing some numbers increasing colon cancer among our population on this island. The other area that we want to leverage is that of family development. Most persons will know that we've rebranded the division and we're speaking to health, wellness, and family development. Family is important for us. The family is the bedrock of society. And this administration is, and in recognition of the need to support our families, we are paying attention to many areas. So our gender affairs units, our community social work, they will all provide a suite of services in a more coordinated way.
I'm pleased to report that the committee has met and approved all the items, including within the schedule for the Tobago House of Assembly. The Tobago House of Assembly's draft estimates for recurrent expenditure for fiscal 2017-2018. Similarly, approval was given for all items under the development program, as well as the unemployment relief program, URP, and the community-based environmental protection and enhancement program. Madam Presiding Officer, I wish to thank you very much and all members for attending the committee sitting.
Members, the motion has been carried for the House. The House approved the draft estimates of the revenue and expenditure respecting all functions of the Tobago House of Assembly for the financial year October 1st, 2017 to September 30th, 2018, copies of which were laid on the table at an earlier stage of the proceedings. I thank you all for participating in the 2018 budget.